Okay.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting at City Manistee Housing Commission. It is 1:04 p.m. on Monday, February 9th. It's call to order, right?
Yeah, roll call. Commissioner Goodman.
Here.
Commissioner Szymanski.
Here.
Commissioner Mychek. He's absent. Commissioner Pelton.
Here.
President Fosdick.
Here. Approval of agenda.
Make the motion, we approve the agenda. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business interviews for executive director position. The first one right now is with Shiloh Rowe. And then at 2 p.m. is with Abe Aslak. So we start our interview with Shiloh now, right?
Yep.
Guess we'd like to start.
Welcome, Shiloh. I'll do the first round of questions.
Thank you.
Describe the scope of housing authorities you've led or worked in. The number of units, programs, public housing versus HCVs, or the staff size and the annual budget.
For public housing only, you said? So public
Um,
housing agencies, not affordables as well?
Housing authorities you've led.
So I've been at the regional level, for third-party fee-based management companies, overseeing a portfolio for Home Forward, which is the Portland Housing Authority in Portland, Oregon, and a portfolio for, the Vancouver Housing Authority in Washington at the same time. Full size of that portfolio, I believe, was 1,576 units. In those two portfolios, I had some semi-supportive buildings, so some with social services on hand all the time. Some that were referred only over for mental health. So they were a certain group. I don't know what the exact program was. I know it was semi-supportive. I've had LIHTC, bond. I've had project-based, tenant-based. I have a whole page of different programs I've seen because in one of my buildings, I had 11 different funding sources.
Oh, wow.
So I've seen every kind of set aside. I had also another semi-supportive building, which was, it's veterans that are referred in. And so those are all VASH voucher, people. So I had that building as well. So I've seen VASH and RD. I've had RD in 2 states, Alaska as well. So total staff size, approximately 35 total staff.
And then budget wise about?
That's a great question. I would be speculating.
Okay.
1,576 units. I would have to go back and look.
And what do you see as the primary role of an executive director in a public housing authority? As an operational manager, as a policy advisor, as a community leader, or anything?
Yeah, so I believe, the commission tells the authority in the direction that they want to move. And so it's the executive director's job to take that vision and motivate the staff and hopefully the community as well to work together to implement the direction that the board chooses for the agency to go in. So the job of the executive director is to do whatever is necessary to implement the goals set forth by the board.
In my head, I've like a secondary on that one. So tell me how you'd handle the situation where you see your board is going off the rails.
So I have no problem with bringing up something I think is a different approach or a different opinion than another group, right? I do recognize and respect that the board still determines the direction. I still would have to make sure that I'm mitigating risk by making sure the board is aware of anything that is rule or a requirement. But if the board has the authority and we're doing everything legal, even if it's against like my personal opinion doesn't set the direction of the agency the board does. So I'm okay to have a different opinion and still lead the same as I would if it was my opinion, because it's what the job is.
Great. And tell us about a difficult leadership decision you had to make that was unpopular but necessary, and what was the outcome?
Difficult leadership decision that I had to make. I just shared this story earlier in Horizons, but I took over a portfolio in Alaska.
Mhm.
And we had like a senior property manager and area manager up there, the most experienced one in Alaska that was overseeing really the other managers for all that area up there. And it was pretty clear when I took over that portfolio that that senior manager had enough struggles that it might have been overtime for them, for the agency and them to break their relationship. But to do that meant that the person in my level position, which was the regional, would have to be in Alaska more. And this was a Vancouver, Washington-based job. And so I ultimately, to meet the goals, which I had a very short timeline of less than 100 days to meet the goals, and ethically, I had to move on from that senior manager. And that was a big change to make. And the results were that we hit all the parameters. It just meant that I had to bring up someone that wasn't exactly ready for the role, and then I had to fill in personally. So I went from taking a job where I was told I'd have to fly up about every 6 weeks to where I was flying up bi-weekly. But we hit the goal by the end of the year, and then it was in a much better space.
And how do you balance mission-driven services with regulatory compliance and financial disciplines?
Sure, so you can't go against regulations and those kinds of parameters, so there is no flexibility there. The rules are the rules on that, so it wouldn't matter what my mission is to follow all the rules, so that would be first. But the financial and stuff like that, again, a lot of that comes up to the board. You want to run the properties right and keep bringing value to the assets and maintaining, the asset in at least its current condition. But also, like in this situation here, you want to gain the confidence back from the community and try and get more investors and such. So you have to make sure you're putting that money in and leading the way that the people need. And that would be my mission, because that is serving the residents. But as far as compliance of the programs and such, there is no flexibility on that. They're rules you gotta follow.
So your mission-driven leadership,
Uh-huh.
which is very clear. So how would you, like, in an organization that's under stress, what type of leadership would you say with mission-driven leadership, or what else would you use?
Well, so I think in mission-driven leadership, you can still have the same goals as far as the business is, but it's the communication of those things. So I think a lot of times when you're focusing on something, let's say the money, or we can't do that. You can say that we can't or no, but it's falling back up with explaining the whys, trying to meet people and have conversations with them, trying to be empathetic, hearing them. And still the answer can be no, but you can say no in lots of different ways. So it can still be mission driven, but also sometimes you can say no, but also give them the route as to how to make that a yes. If they're finding a challenge in let's say they have something on the record that makes them not being able to rent from you, let's say. We do this every day. They don't. And that's what I used to teach my staff. I have staff that would get frustrated signing leases with people. And I would tell them, you sign 1,000 leases a year. They sign one a year. They've done 10 in their life. Like what in that lease, those 20 pages we had in that lease, it's going to be way more than sit down and talk to them, explain it to them. So in that situation with someone that couldn't rent because they have something on their record, I would, if there's a way, I would sit down and tell them the ways to navigate to remove that so they can become a resident.
So I'm hearing you say things like not only in the mission, you would add your improved communication and part of that leadership and collaborative efforts throughout that process as well.
Yeah, that's all mission. I care about people. So the business will take care of itself if you, as long as you know what the goals are and you understand the budgets and you understand the money and you understand how to pay bills and you don't upset the program, so at least you're still getting funded. That's all. You stay within the regulatory stuff, you're going to be fine on those things. But if you want your building to grow into a community and you want people to invest in the community that's inside your building and you want the community to hear how everybody is invested in the community, that's your approach to how you communicate while you're there and out in the community, since you're a representation of the organization.
Karen, I'd like to ask a question here.
Yeah, you can go on.
So you're mission driven. Is that a black and white mission or is there gray areas in it?
I wouldn't know. I mean, it'd have to be gray. I don't know how it would be black and white. My mission is to serve people. Again, I came from a very poverty-stricken situation growing up in all different programs and such. So my mission is just to take the knowledge I've learned on this, on the successes of learning that I've had, and stay within the communities of people that I grew up with, and to try to advocate and work with them to improve their standards. So it's all gray area. I don't have anything black and white. I just want to help people.
Okay, I know there are people that it's either yes or no. There's no maybe to them.
No, there's everything. The only thing that's yes or no, in my opinion, in this role is the things that by HUD or the programs that you're in, right? So USDA, if you're doing those programs, or IRS, if you're doing LIHTC, but those are yes or no's. But as far as the mission of everything else, that's gray area for sure, absolutely.
Go ahead, Karen.
I'm done with my section.
Um, So how would you define the appropriate, proper relationship between the board and the executive director?
Can you restate the question?
How would you define the proper relationship between the board and the executive director?
How would I define the relationship? I would define it as such, the board determines the direction and the executive director stays within the line to meet the goal and vision of that of the board. And also to come back and provide information to the board to make educated decisions. And if possible, and if knowledgeable enough, to also help educate the board so that they can make those decisions. So I think it's a feedback loop. And at the end of the day, the board has the decision and the direction of the agency.
How would you describe a time when you worked with a divided or highly political board? And how did you keep the organization moving forward?
I don't know if I've had a highly political board outright. Again, I live in the Portland metro area. There's a lot of tenant advocacy stuff that's going on. I was through COVID, I was in student housing on the other side of the state. So I don't know. I mean, I've worked with private owners that have very different views and how I think every situation is different. I think again, as long as we're meeting the goal of the community of trying to house people that need affordable housing and serving that group, then I have no, you will not find anything online about my political opinion. I don't have a political opinion in this job. I need to match what the community needs. So my political views will never be on display, and no matter what agency I work for. Ever.
How do you prepare board members, especially new ones, to understand HUD rules, fiduciary responsibilities, and ethical boundaries?
How do I inform them? Well, I don't know how much HUD rules the board necessarily needs to have. I think it matters because there's so much. So I think that as you're trying to navigate and make decisions to move the agency forward or solve a problem, a historical problem, then you might educate them or tell them where to go for that specific rule set. So I think you can explain it somewhat, but also provide them with the information as to where they can find it as well. And also if it looks like we're getting close to being in a situation where we're going to cross the line that we're not allowed to cross, then stopping everyone and just saying, I believe we're going to cross the line here and here's why. In this situation, we have two very experienced people that I also could lean on in this situation and say, you've been a part of this board for a long time, you have 30+ years of experience. I don't have 30 years of experience, so maybe help me navigate how to navigate this. But I have no problem asking, but I also have no problem communicating when I see a challenge.
What information do you believe the board must receive regularly to exercise good oversight without micromanaging?
What information does the board need? The financials have to be, they have to be risk. Risk is probably the biggest one. You have to know, if we're looking at a lawsuit, or if we're gonna have a maintenance garage cave in, right? So you need to know that stuff. And then also because I know you're at Habitat, so you're in the field as well. So you're real estate. I get there's a lot of information out there. That doesn't happen in every board. And so if in the situation like those split units that you have, that are going in the windows and stuff like that, that's good information to bring to the board because we might have a bid for an idea for mini splits, but we might know some other information that we can bring an even more inexpensive idea on how to do it. As far as not being micromanaged by the board, I think part of that has to do with being competent in your job as the ED, exuding that confidence, but also time and earning the respect of the board and delivering on the things they ask for. I think in time, those things can resolve themselves if you're doing a good job. You got to prove yourself first.
Have you ever had pushback on a board of directives? And how did you handle it? In other words, in your job?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so for the Alaska situation up there, I had pushback. I was reporting to the senior vice president of asset management for that ownership group. And usually they would go asset manager, but this problem was such a big deal. They were looking at tax resyndication on their LIHTC units, and there was starting to be some talk behind the scenes of some foreclosure by the bank. And so the senior vice president of asset manager lived in Texas, I believe, and did come up sometimes. But although my company had managed these units for a year, I was the only regional that had walked every unit. I walked there the first time I flew up there. And so that senior asset manager didn't know the situation of the units, such as I'm walking in units that all the plumbing pipings had been pulled out of the wall because they were selling the copper and stuff like that, and they didn't know. And so the pushback was I needed a lot of money because I had less than 100 days to turn 35 units. And I was only getting a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here from the reserves and such. And I finally had a meeting with the president of Housing for Volunteers of America, their JP Morgan, the bank that was involved, and another housing trust fund agency, and finally told them I need a massive loan. And that was the only way I got it done. So I had pushback because he did not understand the gravity based on the information he had, and I didn't have time, and we were butting heads a little bit there. And once I had a meeting and explained the severity, then we got the money. Solve the problem.
Okay, I don't always like to follow all the rules, so I'm skipping because I feel this segment follows what you just talked about. It's a little bit on crisis management and ethics. And you just told us about a crisis situation that you managed financially, safety related, political or regulatory. Do you want to say anything more about that particular crisis that you handled with needing the money? Did it go through? Did you get the loan? Did you?
Yeah, so I think they pulled money from somewhere else and they did get a loan. And so what I did is, I don't remember the exact number, at that 160 unit property, this was a situation where there were multiple years. So that that ownership group has in-house property management companies and their own, and their bank told them that they had to do it out. They had to let their people go so that they could fix the issues. So when I inherited it, there were almost 400 physical deficiency issues. And I think I had 11 or 12 8823s, and I was being threatened by the housing corporation for the state that they were going to resend their tax credits. And I had to solve all this problem by the end of the year. And I think I had 96 days. So I think it was 35 units. And the problem was because some of these units, you have to turn these units at a certain rate. And some of the units haven't been turned in 2 years. And this is Alaska, there's a bunch of mold and stuff like that. And when I would turn a unit, a resident would come forward and say, I have an email from a year and a half ago where I told them I had stuff in my unit. So I'd have to relocate and I still had to turn their unit. So I ended up turning, I think it was 35, 36 units, the 380 something physical deficiencies, and starting the clearing of the 8823s within the 100 days. Yes, I did meet them.
You have empathy for that one more. Okay, so yeah, I can certainly empathize with prices on condition of units and turning them and stuff. So we're a small town, we talked about it. How do you handle media scrutiny and public controversy involving the authorities? You know, like, for instance, with our history, what would you, going forward, what would be something you would think would be a good way to go forward?
So I think there's 2 questions there. How would I handle it and how would I move forward?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So how would I handle it? That's historical knowledge that was before my time. It's none of my business. I can agree to the fact that there has been a lack of confidence for whatever reason, but it's not my business to speak on. My business would be from the date that I come on and solving the problems moving forward. As far as the political pressure or the pressure from the media and such, it's not pressure for me. If they are reporting on something that is absolutely factual, then okay. If they're reporting on something that's not factual, then I need to try and help and show them why it's not factual if it's necessary. But I don't mind if people have a negative opinion of me if I'm doing a good job, as long as we're moving forward on what we're trying to do. People's opinions, not everyone's gonna like you, unfortunately. So,
Yeah.
but with moving forward and stuff like that, you just have to keep gaining the community's confidence so that everybody can be on board and we get some other people to want to develop with us, keep growing.
What steps do you take if you suspect fraud, waste, or abuse?
What steps do I take if what?
If you suspect someone within your organization is fraudulent, wasteful, or abusing the system?
Sure, so I monitor, I research, I watch. I probably would then give parameters, and then I would follow up. I would elevate it if we have a HR department. It matters on what kind of fraud we're talking about. I have had likely 600 employees in my life, 60. I've never had a fraud problem under me. I'm very aware of what's going on. I can't say it wouldn't happen, but I've had a pretty good history and I've managed 25,000 leases in my career.
Well, how do you ensure ethical conduct when, which sounds like you handled your people well,
Mhm.
but when you have pressure from elected officials or stakeholders that believe there is something ethical going on?
Well, it's important to get those things from those people, but what we're talking about, it sounds like more is my staff, and I think that I could hear it from the community leaders, but I believe also the residents would have that feedback. And if you have enough people speaking that same kind of message, especially if they're in different groups, then you've got to really research and pay attention to start asking questions and figure out why. And sometimes you have to part ways with people if it doesn't work for any given reason. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of different groups to have the same issue.
All right, this is, I hope you wouldn't have this, but what would you do in your first 90 days if you discovered serious compliance failures?
Well, I believe they're still gonna be around and I
Yeah.
would come to them who have the historical knowledge and also people that, although they don't know me and I don't know them, I respect what they've done in this industry and I would go to them probably first and say, this is what I found, what are your ideas on it? And then ultimately, I believe they would tell me to come to you or they would say, we've already come to them. But I think this is a unique situation where I have such experience sitting right next to me that I would respect that. For sure.
Thank you. Steve, your turn.
Okay. Somewhere in your resume or one of Dave's things, you listed a legal problem. What was that all about?
Well, like my own personal matter with my landlord. My landlord violated some fair housing
Well,
thing.
hold it, time out, time out.
Sure.
It had nothing to do with your work.
This is my personal lawsuit. I am a pro se litigant, as in I am the one that brought the
Okay.
lawsuit against
Then
my
you
landlord.
don't need to explain it to me.
I will if you want me.
No, that's fine. Have you had any grant writing?
I have not.
If in fact you decide and come to terms with you, how long do you look at your length of stay here? The reason I ask
yeah.
that is I look through your resume
Uh-huh.
and you've had a lot of jobs for 6, 9, 7 months. And I'd hate to go through all this trouble and find out 6 months from now, you're not happy
Yeah.
and we have to start looking again.
Absolutely. So let me explain them. The last one was 6 months. It wasn't back in affordable. I went back into conventional. It wasn't a good mission alignment. So the one before that was where I took over disaster recovery, met the stabilization of the portfolio, and the ownership group was going to take back their portfolio. I wouldn't have had a job. That was out of my control. I fixed the problem. It was a short-term problem. So those were 2 less than a year. One was almost a year. And the job before that was a year and a half. So, and then before that was 11 years. So it was really only one job that would be in question, which would be the 6 months in conventional. It wasn't a good mission alignment. I need to be in. I need to be serving people. And so how long would I stay here? This is just like my hometown. I grew up in a town of 1,000 people. I grew up in a very rural area on the eastern side of Washington, farm community. I was a machinist, right? We talked about some of this stuff. Farming, I've grown up around water. So
Well, I can show you areas of this county that 1,000-person town would look like a sky.
yeah, for sure. I mean, my sister graduated, we were 2 towns combined. My sister graduated with 12 people. So this is not a small town for me. It's a fine size. I know I live in Portland right now. I would stay as long as the job is here for me to be necessary to be here. If I'm serving the community and I feel like I'm still growing as an individual, that's important to me. Then I have, part of what excites me about this agency is not everything's solved. There's still a bunch to do. And I've gotten to do a lot of stuff and I think I can help do some of those things, but This isn't a situation where you walk in and, everything's perfect and you're just gonna hang out and you got a staff and.
Well, it's far from that.
Exactly. So that excites me. I have no timeline as to when I want to exit. It would be my goal to come and make a big difference if that's 2 years or 50 years. I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere necessarily.
Okay, your fiance is on board with the little Manistee.
She'll move anywhere but Alaska. She doesn't want, she likes the snow. She's born and bred in LA. So, and she moved to Portland where I'm at. So, she's aware of the areas, yeah.
Karen?
Right, this isn't on there, but, I wanted to ask you if you could remember one project, one activity in which you failed. Something that was really difficult for you. How did you work through that?
Yeah, so I've had two of them. I've had a financial one and I've had like a personal one that was really just kind of hurt the soul a little bit.
Mhm.
So one of them was financial. I was doing conventional property management and I was in a student housing community, and so most of my rentals were students, so they're on the same cycle yearly. And we once a year would ask how much the owners wanted to raise their rents, and I was the director, so I was the number one builder, owner of the company. And we were getting close to that deadline, and I felt I knew an owner who I'd worked for many years. She had not gotten back to us. Rather than reaching out, I made the call on not raising rent because we were getting close to deadline. And that was the wrong call. And she said that she had notified my front desk person a couple weeks before that the rent should have went up $100 a month. And so the company elected to pay for the difference. So we paid the 1,200 as an agency. And so that was 100% my fault. I should have went to my staff. I also should have had outreach to her. I think I had 170 owners,
Mhm.
different properties. So, but I made a mistake. And so yeah, I just changed the way I follow up and also ask my staff a little more. So it cost us $1,200, my fault, 100%.
Yeah.
As far as like emotionally, I had a goal of buying an agency at one point. I had worked there a long time. I had a 5-year buyout agreement. I thought I was gonna buy the agency. I had all plans to. I had focused my whole life on doing it. And then COVID happened and COVID changed everything. And the owner of the agency was not really interested in selling. There was about 1.5 years left of that agreement. And so I had my whole future planned, I thought, and she elected to hold the agency. I ended up starting my own, so I owned a real estate firm and property management company in Washington that also operated in Idaho. It was a startup. And at that point, I had some other personal things going through the board. And it just felt like it was time to move. That's why I went to Portland. So so that was hard because I'd invested in that community like I was gonna live there forever and own. She was the biggest property management company by 2.5 times in the community. And I was really part of that community. So that did really hurt, but COVID changed a lot for everybody, so it wasn't just me.
Say, it sounds like you have a baseline of some strong resiliency.
I've been through, I've had a lot of opportunities to learn.
Mhm.
Getting to Manistee was a challenge all the way.
Working.
I thought I was gonna have a 3.5 hour layover in O'Hare, and I was being called and had 3 minutes to run to the plane. Because of all the different places I was on hold. I was on the tarmac for 1.5 hours in O'Hare.
You're going to Manistee?
I did.
Yeah, I've talked to my son. He's made more money doing that.
Yeah.
And his second home is at O'Hare Airport.
Yeah, exactly.
Nick?
I think Karen, you still.
No, I've got, just looking at, I wanted to jump into resident relationship.
Oh, that was what I wanted to do next.
Board wants leaders who understand the residents, not just, and you've said this throughout. You recognize people, you're interested in people themselves, and that's what we want. Knowing that, how do you ensure resident voices are meaningfully included in our agency decision-making process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you don't wait for it. You seek them out. You seek out the people. A lot of people speak up when they're so frustrated that they're not at a stage where they're gonna be able to hear any feedback. They're just upset. And there's another group of people that speak up because that's in their nature just to speak up, and I appreciate that. But there's a whole subgroup, which is the majority, who have something to say, but they're not all the way frustrated and they're not naturally gonna speak up.
Mhm.
And so I really like to seek people out. I like to be a part of the community. I like to do the inspections, and talk to people, engage with people. And this is an agency that's, small enough that, Lori's talked about on some of your guys' meetings, going and doing those inspections and such. So I know there's that time, but your agency recently was trying to do something with the internet to see about the feedback, and you had a small group of people that showed up. You were trying to solve if it was, I think it's tabled right now. And in that situation, I know there was some outreach and some emails, you weren't getting feedback, so I don't know what happened. But based off of where that stopped and the knowledge I have based on the meetings I watched for your agency, I think if I had time, and that's not always possible, but if I had time, I would go and knock on people's doors and ask them their opinion if I had the time, and maybe that's been done, I don't know, but I can only see what I saw online. But those are the things that I would do. If I had the time, I'm gonna go knock on people's doors. I'm gonna engage with them and talk to them and not wait for someone to have a problem.
Can you describe a time when you dealt with a resident conflict, activism, or political criticism, whatever it was? How did you handle that situation with the resident?
I have a former manager who's actually I don't want to say when he's putting his notice in. I won't say his name. There we go. He's getting ready to leave his agency, but he was gonna put his 2 weeks in before I started, and then he's now stayed 2 more years. We fixed an issue, but the situation was Vancouver Housing Authority owns a property, and it is homeless housing, so straight from homeless. That's usually the first group that comes in. And right next door to that, there's like, not a park area, but there's a little city area. And that's where a lot of people, a lot of homeless people are still congregating and setting up tents and such. And so the residents were being very challenging on this manager because they wanted the manager to make the community safe. And it was getting to where the city commission was being notified because somebody in the building had a cousin that was on the commission, and it became this huge political thing. And the problem was is that Vancouver Housing Authority doesn't own that property. And it's still owned actually by the person that donated this land, I believe. But really, I just went and educated them and kept telling them, look, everyone can call the police if we don't, if there's something going on illegal, you can call the police. But we can't govern land that isn't our land. But I think it's the fact that a lot of people said either wouldn't take their calls or would say it's not our problem. And that goes back to one of the first questions you asked is, you can say no, but I think you got to follow up and say why sometimes. So we say, look, this is the problem, here's how you solve it. But that was a big deal, it was on the news.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you balance the enforcement of those rules with compassion and for vulnerable households?
I think partially, well, you gotta be knowledgeable of your community, because every community is different. But part of that direction would come from the board, right? Where that line rides with the board on how much enforcement we have to do. But I would encourage any agency that if you have someone that the rules are able to be a little flexed for and you are flexing, but it's affecting other people from wanting to live there or people are moving out, then that's not a good flexing of those rules. So we want to operate in a way that the most amount of people are the most comfortable rather than a few individuals.
Very good. And what role should a housing authority play in supportive services, partnerships, and community development?
They should lead the community.
Very good. And how do you measure success beyond the occupancy and the compliance issues?
However, the board sets the direction and how well I mean it. I don't set the direction of the agency. I just put the things in motion to meet the goals. So my success would be deduced by what the board says I'm doing as far as the job is concerned.
So let me ask it this way. What would you feel is your level of success when you look at the residents, persons living within the agency or within the?
Talking about in my past?
No, just current, like what makes you feel as if you're doing a success? If you were to work with residents or, kind of look at the different projects we have or the people,
Sure.
what would be your level of success?
Yeah, so success in that would be, not everybody's gonna be able, you're not gonna be able to give yeses in all things. You're not gonna be able to give nos in all things. So when we're talking about that, success would be determined by if they feel heard.
Okay.
Regardless of the answer I give, if they feel heard at the end, then that's success.
That is a very important piece in our system. Something that's really. All right.
Nick?
So do you have a hobby or hobbies? And if so, how do you relate those to your work-life environment?
Yeah, so again, I have a very unique story in my life. I did not go a conventional route by any means. And to get out of the situation that I was afforded to be brought into meant, in my opinion, that I needed to outwork some certain situations. And so my hobby's always been work. Even up until when I was in Pullman, managing that agency, I was still working 78 hours a week. And that's probably been what I've worked in my life for the most part. You know, with the Alaska thing, instead of flying up every 6 weeks, I was flying up every other week. So hobbies, I like to be educated. I like to be knowledgeable. That's why I have, certifications and such. My next goal is by the end of this year, it's my goal to have my master's done. But in investing in myself and being better at my job and serving my people. So in this environment versus conventional housing, my mission of serving people would be my hobby. So if that can also be my job, that would be best. Don't have any hobbies outside of it. I just like to work.
So what do you consider to be the biggest challenge facing public housing authority over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, so I think the federal government did a great job with the RAD conversion, right? Because we had aging assets and no money to be able to pull with no consistent money coming in. But so I think that's still the problem though. We have assets that are a little too old. And it's still pretty challenging. There's not enough money out there based off of the age of the assets. I think that the need for affordable housing is growing and the development is not keeping up with the rate as well. So we need to find a way to utilize our assets, probably leverage them if we can, bring in more developing partners, grow so we can keep up with the amount of people that need housing. In this environment, we need people with a higher, AMI, so different programs so that we can bring in some more workforce housing. So that's it. And then I think also, as we move further past that, I think there's a little bit of insecurity on how the federal government is going to keep funding the programs exactly. So aging assets and insecurity of long-term funding.
So what innovations or best practices have you implemented that improved outcomes? I think you kind of mentioned a couple of them already, but.
What have I implemented? Every situation is different. And again, I've done a lot of disaster recovery. So really what I find is you go and you invest in the people, your staff. And as soon as your staff sees you working hard, getting everything done, like I know Lori's done here, she's saying does everything every day because that's what needs done. So that's the right mindset. Communicating with your staff, spending time with them, inspiring them. You can implement tools like technology and such, but there's still a learning curve for that. So you have to maximize what you have. And also technology is expensive and implementation is hard. I have implemented different property management softwares in the past. I've tested different ones to implement them. But I think you got to go slow. You got to be stable, and you have to make sure that your people believe in your direction before you turn in the direction, so that they'll follow along rather than go in an opposite direction, worried about it not going.
So how would you balance development, preservation, and resident stability and satisfaction?
There's always going to be a little bit of a shockwave, unfortunately, like if you're doing the RAD conversion on your scattered sites and you have to relocate people to do all of those things from the needs assessments and such. You're going to have to relocate. I have been a part of that with Vancouver Housing Authority, helping with those relocations and such. I also had a building that was I think it's 136 units, and we had done a full rehab and it had to be fully rented by the first of the year. I had it fully rented the day before. And then I think it was 13 days later, 36 units flooded from a sprinkler line. So I had 36 people I was driving in buses, veterans to different hotels and such. And that had to be completely reconstructed. In that situation, I worked with their other buildings and was able to move a lot of them permanently into different buildings. We just had to move their vouchers over and such. But it's spending time with them, hearing them, recognizing the challenge that they're under, not mitigating their experience, telling them that if they're able to be patient, that it will pay off and that you care. You just got to spend time with them. It's not just run away and solve the problem behind the scenes. They got to see you. They need to know you're there for them. And if possible, give them options, even if any, like, you give them 3 options and all options come with their own ripple from the pebble being dropped in the lake. Let them choose which ripples they want to follow, if you can, give them options.
Oh, that last line,
Yeah.
not yet.
One for you.
No, you're saving it for me. All right, here's the tough. How do you personally hold staff accountable for, you know, raising the level, that everyone is following your example of caring about the residents and not just doing their job?
Sure, how do you hold them accountable?
Yeah.
Well, you hold yourself accountable first by inspiring them, right? So if you've inspired them, they will generally go in that direction if they believe in the direction that you're inspiring them to go in. But how do you hold them accountable? Try to understand why. If they're not hitting those marks, spend time with them and say, I understand our job is A and we've hit A, but we'd like to get to B, not just our job, but more. And I'm wondering, I feel like, and I'm not sure, but I'm not seeing B, I don't think. Do you believe that we can go to B somehow? And why is it that you feel like maybe you're not hitting B? I taught my stepson one of the things that means the most to me is the greatest waste is wasted potential. And so just doing our job is not enough. We should do what our potential says we can. So it's trying to understand the why. As far as holding them accountable, that's a challenging situation because of the fact of if they're doing the job that their job description states and stuff like that, you know, your hands might be tied past that. They might be meeting what they have signed up to do. So my goal would just to keep trying to inspire them is I'd like them to at least do their job, but if I can show them a better way and why, then
Yeah.
hopefully they'll
Yeah.
want to do it too.
This is kind of putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion, on this project, but what is your approach to succession planning and leadership development? We hire you, we don't want you to have a succession plan. We want you to stay until we get new commissioners.
So you're old.
Yeah, it's your old.
I can't be Greg.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
What's
yeah.
my succession plan?
yeah, what would be your succession plan? If, you know, like would you say, okay, I need a really powerful assistant? Or, I don't know, what do you think?
It would be my goal for people to be hired into whatever position we need at that time, for them to be the best they possibly can, and then to do some cross training to cover different people for whatever reason, and that creates succession by accident. It's my goal to take any knowledge I have and pass it on, and so that's not succession planning. That's just investing in your team. And in that, succession can happen by proxy, but I wouldn't walk in the door looking for a way to get out of the door.
Good.
But I would definitely try and get my employees to be the most competent possible. That also makes me stronger.
That's a piece of a servant leadership.
Yes, for sure. And I've had so many staff members that I've already done this with.
Yeah.
I have directors in other companies that started out. A young lady in Seattle won an award last year for property manager of the year. I was her first manager, and now she's in Seattle, major market, and she was property manager of the year for the whole market. Another person is a director at a nonprofit, and she was my receptionist, and I was told by the owner of that company that she wasn't gonna make it a few months, she wasn't made for the business, and now she's a director in a nonprofit.
It's a good feeling when you can help.
Good feeling for them.
Yeah,
That's what I care about. But yeah, absolutely, of course.
I think most of this section he's answered from. And yeah, I think that you want to ask some more questions, but
Sure.
I think you've covered a lot of, I know that's gonna be the last one.
Uh-oh.
That's the last one, right?
How much, low income past credit experience have we had and RAD experience? We are in the process of going through another RAD. At such a time, we will no longer be a public housing authority. Everything will be in, it'll be all right.
Yeah, so you'll still be a public housing, it'll be a commission, it's just you won't have the public housing program.
Right.
Yeah, so I have some experience. I was, again, a regional manager where I was overseeing Vancouver Housing Authority was going through some RAD conversions, so I was a part of helping with that. Because of the size and scale of the things that I've handled, I'm usually given the problems that other people can't see. So although I came into an agency, as an assistant portfolio manager. In a week or so, I was then the regional manager, and in 3 months, I was the biggest regional by 2.5 times. And it was because I was taking on all the properties with all the challenges. So I had 1,576 units, I believe, as a regional. So I do have a property that's done it. I'm more so supported on the tenant side since I was the regional property manager of for the fee-based management company. I will say, there's a lot to it per se. Obviously, they're doing it right now. Mark knows all about it. I watch your meetings and I just like to listen. But I do also have the asset manager specialist certification through CHAM. So I do understand the asset cycle. I'm also a real estate agent licensed in 2 states. So I would not say I am a RED specialist, but I have seen it, experienced it, and I understand it somewhat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but our back of house is done by an outside firm.
Yeah.
You're aware of that.
Yeah, perfect.
Would you keep it that way?
I mean, there's a lot to evaluate to know. It'd be challenging. I don't think, politely, I don't think it'd be appropriate to answer it sitting at this chair right now because I've not seen your operations.
Okay,
I would evaluate everything that is being going on, to try to improve, anything I can put my hand on. And that might be it, but. I'd like to see it.
yeah, I'm somewhat concerned that all you wanna do is work all day long.
Hmm.
Because at some point in time, that work all day long is gonna catch up to you.
Yep.
And it just soon as not happen in the next 20 years here.
Yeah, I don't know anything else. I will say after COVID, the first time in my life, I do think I hit a little bit of burnout. The owner of the company, wasn't in a place where she could work in the agency, so I was covering her in my full-time position, navigating through COVID. And so that was the first time I realized that I was human, I couldn't work forever, and I have pulled back some. I'm not worried about it because I do know where that line is, and I do not tell, I love to work, it doesn't feel like work. You asked another question that I didn't answer. Would you like me to go back to, which was what was my tax credit experience? I believe you asked.
Oh, I thought you answered that.
I answered the RAD conversion question. Tax credit, I do have a tax credit specialist certification as well.
So you
I have,
understand them.
I've had many properties with them as well. And also, when you say experience, there's experience in size and scale, and there's also experience in time. Because if someone says, I have 5 years of experience in this certain situation, someone else could have 1 year, but they manage 10,000 units. So that matters, time and scale. So my scale, again, I don't know the other can't for myself. I have been at the director level for 14 of my 16 years. I have been the broker on record for many of those years, signing the leases, being responsible for the agency. And I've probably overseen 25,000 leases. I don't know the scale of anyone else that's been considered, but even in my affordable, although I have less than, right about 2 years, 2.5 years, I think, of experience, I also have had 1,500 units, so I have 3,000 unit experience in this agency with 200 and something units. That's what, 15 years of your agency.
But the other thing too, along those lines is, have you ever managed Section 8 vouchers?
I haven't done the compliance aspect of managing them, but I've had buildings with them, yeah.
So you haven't had like a portfolio of just vouchers?
So that's more on the compliance side usually.
Okay.
And so that's usually, that's a whole department within itself. So I've had properties and managers that help with the initial certs and stuff, and I manage them. But in bigger agencies, you usually have a whole voucher, like compliance department. And you wouldn't normally, unless you're a director of like the housing authority, you wouldn't oversee both normally. That would be way at the top for them, like assistant director, CEO or COO of a big agency. They're usually separate. Property management's one and compliance is.
Well, okay. Basically, it's Section 8 vouchers that
Mhm.
we would have like 100 of them to give to 100 different people.
Yeah, I was just asking Lori why we didn't have vouchers here. You can bring anything in. The thing with me is, I have so much experience that what I'm lacking for what you have isn't gonna probably be hard for me to fill because I've seen so much. And then after that, just because I haven't done it doesn't mean I don't want to.
Okay.
I want to do everything because I want to serve the most amount of people in the community.
Why do you want to move Washington to Michigan?
This is very much like Washington. This is just like the town I grew up in. I don't mind where I live. I really want to serve a community. This community or a smaller community, you you are a part of that community. It's,
Well, you'll find everything extremely dirt cheap here.
except for housing, right? But some of it, just depends. I don't mind where I live. I'm very mission focused. I've moved around for different jobs. I've lived different places. I'm not geographically tied to anywhere specifically. It's not, why do I want to move here versus Washington? I don't care if I live in Washington. I want to move somewhere where I can make a difference and I'm appreciated for making that difference.
And along the same lines, why does your fiance wanna move with you halfway across the country?
Sure. So my fiance doesn't work. So I am the person that works, and she also moved a year ago from LA, which means she has no long-term ties to where we live now. So she has absolutely nothing tying her to where she lives except for me. And she doesn't have a job that she has to change. So
Okay.
it matters nothing for her.
That
also
was the next
looks-
question, what kind of work does she have? Okay.
She'd like to be a mom. That would be what she would like to be doing.
Have you had any? How do you evaluate whether a development or redevelopment project is financially viable?
You have a feasibility study and you ask the people that you hire to consult with. They're specialists in these things, and although you could become highly proficient in what you can learn, you're probably not gonna be a specialist in people that do it every day. So I would trust my studies. And I'd have the board to vote. The board would make the decision.
Yeah.
Shiloh, listening to you, you have an amazing. I can hear the set of skills that you have. I hear very clearly that you love challenge. And that
Oh,
you
boy.
want to be able to, make a difference.
Mhm.
Plus really are connected with people. So I hear all that easily. And you've had some not high profile, but some intense kind of like challenges, like, in my own job, I love a good challenge, so I always say my resume, it looks like I couldn't hold a job, but I was going to different places for different challenges. So how do we keep you here? How does, I'm trying to put that in my brain. It's like, man, he's got all this and he's really dynamic, and do we have enough to offer?
Is he gonna get bored?
Yes, so it's a good question. So I've watched many of your guys' meetings that are online. And there's still a great need here. And although Mark and Lori have done an absolutely incredible job based on the research I've done in the community, there's still a lot in the middle. I said a couple times today, I think the agency is about 1.75 of 3, which 3 is where, you're starting to get a bunch of different developing partners and such. And they've done so much, but there's still a lot of those scattered sites that need to be converted, the ones that need to be torn down. I've also built buildings and been in construction and owned construction companies. So I think I would have an eye there. Again, not a professional anymore in that space, but I do understand it a little more than some people in the industry. There's a lot there. And then the other thing that I've heard from this board that I really like is the board wants to keep serving the community. So there are some agencies that are happy with where they're at. And this board, it sounds like from the things I've seen, wants to help as many people in the community that they can. Push affordable housing to the people in need. And the thing that was done for this role, I believe that said that there were still about 600 units are in need right now. So you have a 250 unit agency that's been around many, many years, and you still have a 600 unit need. So if you can find the right developers, I don't know how you would get bored. You need to double in size and then double it again. So if the board wants to keep advancing forward, there's a lot to do now. But if the board keeps wanting to advance, there's still a lot to do later. I'd love to see vouchers come in if that's what the agency wants to do. It's a whole other aspect of the industry that we could keep helping people, and they could be renting from, the conventional owners with their vouchers. I've done a lot of VASH vouchers. I love them. That's from the military. Those move really easily. They're a great voucher to have. And I've seen all of these different programs that I'd love to bring them in and try and help people.
I appreciate, it sounds like you've really thought it through, and you're feel as if that building you here.
For sure. Just want to help people.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
There was a final one. I thought you said there was a
Oh,
final.
You answered it.
You
He
answered it.
provided it.
He kind of circled around it.
Shiloh, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we excuse you?
Anything I'd like to say? I appreciate the visit. I mean, I think it's been incredible, the amount of engagement and such. I like that the people were invited as well. No, I just appreciate the opportunity and, obviously I've spent a lot of time with the other candidate who's also seems like an incredible person and would be an asset here or anywhere else. So I believe if you select between either one of us, you'll have a really good strong candidate moving forward. And if, I'm not that candidate, I respect the board's decision. And if the other candidate chose to reach out to me for support, I would be happy from afar to also offer any answers to any questions I may, or he may have that I can help with. So, just want to see the agency today.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You guys want to take a break for a minute?
Sure, yeah.
Legs?
Which the meeting will still be in session though.
No, just,
Or no?
we can just
Okay.
stop it and start.
Well,
We're just taking a break. It's back closing. We're just taking a break.
I should give you, just give you an
I don't have a
idea.
card, so.
I know, he does know, he could take you by, if you dare put your life in his hands
He
again.
he won't answer me. He tried not to drag me around.
No, I got
He's a
you.
boy.
take you to the other building. give you a
You have a
tour.
couple other
Would have liked to, yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. I forgot, Dave, I was gonna drive by those 12th Street ones that I was telling you that, you know, didn't
Oh, yeah.
fit in the neighborhood.
Right.
Well, they're like.
Driving back, maybe you could swing by.
Let me know where they are.
I have one. I think they might be more, but I don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're talking to the question or you want to change it?
I got it.
Oh,
Nope, we got it.
okay.
Are you?
There are cookies, if anyone wants cookies in between on the break.
I'm gonna go with that. Let's take.
I'll be around for a while.
Alright.
They're gonna take you on a little tour,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna meet after the meeting
okay.
with them briefly.
Yeah.
If you wanna wait, or,
What's that? Or get my feet working again.
um,
Right now we're being.
Abe might be going back that way, I don't know.
I could go back that way too.
You can? Okay.
Figure it out.
But as soon as, I mean,
What?
we're gonna be done, what, is it 2 o'clock right now?
Yeah.
Cookies?
So we'll be done,
He's looking for your age.
we'll be done at 3 and 3:30.
But I'm done meeting. So I'll go ahead and tour and I'll just let you know if I'm
Okay.
going back or what.
All right.
We will follow you.
So we don't hear about Reese, we're still recording, so we don't hear about Reese.
Are you staying, you're staying the night, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What I might do is, want to just take me back?
What's that?
You want to just take me back?
I can. I think I've got a 4:30 meeting.
You pick mine?
Are you gonna come back? Or do you want me to come back and get you?
No. That's what I was
Now
gonna
get the most you can on the car he's driving.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, and then I'll, you want me to give them, I'll give them the front desk. I'll for you. Then you have them right in front. Okay, I appreciate
I'm
that.
301.
If I can't get in.
Well, I know, but I was just. In case you want to leave them for somebody at the desk and save them for. I don't see it. I don't think.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Interesting fellow.
Yeah, I'll keep in contact either way.
Yeah.
$30 years and all. Yeah, oh, yeah. I understood that one. Yeah, exactly. So I'll go get a tour and then I'll.
It's a road, beautiful road. Listen, you guys. want to do this.
Hi, how are you? Eating a cookie. Do you want some sugar? Yeah.
Thank you. We went out like 18 miles.
Okay, well, go ahead.
What is that?
Well, hi.
The hot seat. Thank you.
Gonna turn the lights on a little brighter so they shine.
Oh, where's the spotlight?
That spotlight. Heat light.
You turn the heater on this there.
Pull from the fans.
I don't know why that's on. We don't have.
Does that even need a bathroom for them?
That's one pole or.
I'm impatient. How's one pull?
Can't wait for it to stop. It's just not
I do that too.
Not in my nature. Except for when it had dust on it and up there.
Mhm.
I think you guys.
I think there it is. It went off.
Yeah, but that's a really good way if you spin and then you move your finger out.
I know. Thank you.
Oh, this is public.
Yes.
Okay.
So now everybody has your bag.
About dusting.
It might be quoted. It might be quoted.
ABC always before them.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, you want to start?
Dave.
All right, Dave. We're gonna kind of just each ask questions and go down the road
Sound
here.
good?
Can you describe the scope of housing authorities you led or worked in? That would include like the number of units, the programs that you might have had, the staff size and or annual budget.
So for PHAs, the only one that I've been with is the Battle Creek Housing Commission, which is where I'm currently at. We've got 13 staff members in total, 6 or 7 in maintenance, and the rest is administration. We have 349 rad converted units. And then we, depending on the month, somewhere between 600 and 700 vouchers that we administer. And then there was another part of that, Karen, but I don't.
Your budget.
Oh, budget. The budget is about 5 to 6 million.
So what do you see as the primary role of an executive director in a public housing authority? Like operational manager, policy advisor, what do you think is gonna be your role?
Me or what, yeah, so I think it's, from what I've heard, it's a lot of, I call it town gown relations, but basically, there needs to be, I know Lori, and staff have done a really good job gaining the trust back here, and that's basically maintaining that. And then using that as a launch pad to build stronger relationships and, do more than just public housing, but in my mind, I think you have an example just up the road of Traverse City, 2015, Traverse City is very similar. Actually, we might be in a slightly better position than Traverse City 2015. They had 130 some units. We got 214. And when Tony Lindsay took it over, he turned it into in the course of 7-8 years, $100 million development arm for Traverse City. So I think it's still being true to the values of public housing, understanding that, dotting your i's, crossing your t's, but expanding your revenue streams in various ways. And so you got to run it quasi-governmental, but you got to have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Can you tell us about a difficult leadership decision you had made that was unpopular but necessary? What was the outcome? How did you handle it?
Well, just even recently with my current housing authority, there was a push and it was a dynamic where I had my administration saying one thing and I had my board saying another, and I'm stuck in between. And like, I'm supposed to be listening to my executive director, but the board's saying one thing and it's like, what do you do? So you try to navigate that, listen to what they're saying. And we came up with IT. They wanted to upgrade to IT. They wanted to have a remote server that allowed us to be the ability, if we wanted to, in the future, the board work remotely, be able to have just a setup to do it. Right prior to that, we were 100% paper, and it was I had to listen to both, and it was just listening and trying to between a rock and a hard spot, and ultimately the people in power made the push. So it's just trying to walk that line.
How do you balance mission-driven services with regulatory compliance or financial discipline?
I think you got to build out your team because not everybody's good at one thing. Some people have a knack for dotting the i's, crossing the t's. Some others are go-getters, and somewhere else in between. And being conscientious of your strengths and weaknesses, and then being able to fill that void with competent people that don't necessarily have that. Competent people that fit strengths that you don't necessarily have. Because you can't do everything, but you got to know what those are and then be able to fill in with a competent person.
What leadership style do you use when you're using with organizations or in your job, and or when you're under stress or that organization's under stress?
Well, you should always listen. That should be the first goal, and it should be listen to to understand, not to react. And then from there, lay out a plan, figure out who the stakeholders are, and then go. Be direct, be kind, but be direct, be honest, because, being wishy-washy about it, being indecisive, that gets no one nowhere. You may upset someone by being very decisive, but if you're doing it with good intent and you have the right priorities, I think most people will let you pass.
How do you define the proper relationship between the board and the executive director?
The appropriate relationship?
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody would have to be in alignment, and making sure that I mean, it's a culture, whether it be working, we have to work with one another. And I mean, listening to that vision and implementing it. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the board is the authority, so you have to listen to what they're putting in, but you can give advice, put your 2 cents in, but I think there ultimately has to be alignment, because if there's no alignment, you're setting yourself up for contention. I mean, it's not necessarily people are bad people. People think different, they have different goals, different whatnot. It doesn't necessarily make it an issue, but if there's not alignment, it's gonna be tumultuous.
Describe a time when you worked with a divided or highly political board, and how did you keep the organization moving forward?
I think just doing what you need to do, listening to what they're telling you. I mean, doing that, and I mean, just trying to do the best that you can with what you're dealt, while realizing that at a certain point, you only have so much authority, and the authority that's being invested in you is coming from a board. So it's tight. I don't think there's any direct way to deal with it, and I've dealt with that, and it's, yeah.
How do you prepare the board members, especially new ones, to understand HUD rules, fiduciary responsibilities, and ethical boundaries?
Just, I listen to what their concerns are. If I know about it, I'd fill them in. If I didn't know it, research it, fill them in. Just listening, knowing where your expertise is at, executing on that. If you don't know it, ask the people who do, or research and find the answer so that you can inform them. And right now, information is not guarded like it used to be. You had to be in a position for 30 years. You had to be by osmosis getting the information. But now, I mean, the Michigan network with NARO is very tight. I mean, you pick up a phone like, hey, I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? Or you search it, you go. So it's just being resourceful.
What information do you believe board members must receive regularly in order to exercise good oversight without micromanaging?
Big things in finances. You can't save the world if you can't pay the rent. So that would be number one. Just kind of an idea of what you're doing. Like, if they have no idea what you're doing, they're wondering, well, what's he doing with his time? Like, justify your pay. So I mean, just kind of keep them involved with what your day to day is, or your week to week. I mean, it doesn't have to be super granular. I mean, I guess it depends on what the board wants. If the board wants it really granular, you can make it granular. But just broadly speaking, and completely 100% transparent about finances.
So have you ever had any pushback on a board directive, and how did you handle it?
I have pushback from a board director, or I gave
Have-
pushback.
Have you ever gave pushback to a board directive, and how did you handle it?
So there's been a couple of, so I think Battle Creek Housing Commission has what's called the Georgetown Estates. It was acquired through Resolution Trust when the savings and loan debacle happened. They acquired it, and there's been a big debate whether we should sell it, whether we should do LIHTC, whether we should have a third party property management, whether we should let the third property management company that's been doing it for years continue to do it. And I was of the assumption that we should bring it in-house, LIHTC it if we needed to. And they did not believe there was capacity, and they just wanted to offload it, which wasn't necessarily a bad idea. It was just what they thought the housing commission had capacity for, and what I thought had capacity for were completely different. And I made my point. I did all that I could. At the end of the day, the votes came in the opposite sides, and You do it, or, I mean, you just accept it.
Jimmy?
Okay. Boards want leaders to understand residents, not just programs. How do you ensure resident voices are meaningfully included in agency decision-making?
So, I mean, you meet all the residents where they're at with whatever communication avenue. If it's bulletin boards, you put it out, if it's email, you have a way to implement a text system, you can do it. Social media, and you're just, I mean, talking to them. I mean, people want to be heard. And it's not necessarily you agree with them, but they want to at least know that you know where they're coming from and just being accessible. Like currently, I don't think I've been emailed any of you all from my current Battle Creek, but my cell phone's on every one. Now, I don't know if that would be something I'd want every resident right off the bat having, but I mean, it's something I'm not necessarily open to. I get enough phone calls a day, like I'm not too necessarily worried about it, but it's just communication. It's like whether it's your family, your friends, work, you just openly communicate, listen.
And let's describe a time you dealt with resident conflict or some kind of public or resident criticism, something you did. If you had that.
Yeah. Well, I know the perception, and it had been that way for a while, and it's gotten much better. There used to be a major bed bug issue with Cherry Hill Manor, which is the largest property in the portfolio of the Housing Commission, and it had been a long-standing stigma. And when you have new residents coming in, they're like, well, I want to like, well, you want to live in Cherry Hill? It's like, oh, I don't want bed bugs. And overcoming that perception, and then they see once they get in, like we have dogs monthly that go in, root this out. And honestly, that kind of gets back to the point, like, you really got to preserve your reputation because we're still battling 3 years, 4 years after the fact with something that doesn't exist anymore, but the perception's already out there amongst the community. So it's much easier to maintain than try to build back a reputation.
And how do you balance enforcement of rules with compassion for vulnerable households?
I think it's just a case by case scenario. You can tell like if someone's smoking in their apartment, I mean, there's not really a way to be compassionate about that. I mean, you can't smoke in the apartment. But if I don't know, if they've done something, I'm trying to think of a scenario where they've clearly violated the lease. Oh, so maybe they're a senior and their kids, they need a babysit. And the babysitting arrangements turned into a long-term scenario where we actually had a grandmother who was watching her child, and he had essentially de facto moved because her kid, or I don't know what the relationship was, but one of the younger offspring couldn't take care of her grandkid. So she was watching it, crying, trying to figure it out. And we worked with her on it, clearly a lease violation. She had someone in the apartment that wasn't supposed to be there. But realizing she wasn't trying to be malicious, this is a genuine concern and working with them and knowing with them. I mean, there's a big difference between that and say someone who's just, it's cold outside, I'm gonna smoke inside.
That never happens here.
Yeah.
What role should a housing authority play in supportive services, partnerships, and community development?
Well, I mean, from a PHA standpoint, I mean, we know that there's a lot of mental health. I'm just hearing it here, like a lot of mental health, figuring out a way to do that. I know, and I just have to figure out here if there is maybe like a social work program where you could bring in a social worker, figure out some way to make it work. And then you could run a internship out of it, because once you have a social worker on site, you can use other internship workers trying to get their hours in or in training, and you have a program there. When it comes to development, I think you don't need to look any further than Traverse City, like I said before. Because if you want to have a resident service coordinator, if you want to be able to provide these benefits, you got to have another source of revenue coming in. And you can fund that by development from the developer fees, from the increased housing stock. I know you all work with the land bank really well. So figuring out a way to increase their own portfolio that's not tied to HUD, because for better or worse, it's a whiplash. We don't know what HUD's going to do, whether it'll be here 10 years from now, and we need to act. We need to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. If HUD goes away tomorrow, we need to be able to operate without that. And if it's here, great. But if it's not, we need to operate like that. And then by having that extra income, you can afford, things above just a roof over someone's head.
How do you measure success beyond occupancy and compliance?
And perception, and to say like, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? Like, if I go out in the street of Manistee and like, and I mean, you could have 100% occupancy or near it, whatnot, and you go out in the streets and, hey, what do you think about the housing commission? And they just unload on you about like all the negative things they can come up with. It's like, are you really winning? I mean, so there's that. So I think what would people say about the organization when people within the organization are not listening or have their backs turned?
Steve?
I'm a little nervous about your experience in public housing, but you have a huge real estate background.
Mhm.
So have you ever done any grant writing?
Yep, I submitted a grant for the resident service coordinator position that we had. And then someone sued someone, I don't remember, and it's being held up in court. So I've written one, I had to do it in a week.
And
That
and you got the grant?
no, it's being,
Okay.
it's being held up in court right now.
How much experience do you have in low income tax credit?
Low income tax credit, so I've done the RFQ process, the site visit. We're waiting for developers to submit. So I've done the initial process. Have I seen one all the way through? No, I haven't.
Do you consider yourself a black and white sort of person, or do you work in the gray areas?
Mostly black and white. Now, I understand some things aren't, but I'd say primarily black and white.
So I've got you pegged as primarily financial, and that's a black and white.
Yeah. Well, so no, it's not, I mean, finances are important, but I mean, I'm also, a people's person. And here's the thing too, like, I mean, you kind of hit to some things. I'm not an ace of spades, but I'm a jack of all trades. So I can walk in a blue collar and a white collar, real estate. I can talk a financing deal. I can do all this and have a realm in all backgrounds. Also, like I said, like the ability, I have no problem talking to anybody. And I usually know where to find information from someone who may already have it, or talk to someone who knows where that information's at. So I have no problem picking up a phone, sending an email. I'm a part of a couple, LinkedIn groups specifically for LIHTC, just kind of seeing what's going on with all the other professionals across the states. But yeah.
I hear you say you're black and white, and I think Steve was right. When it comes to rules, finances, operational, it can be black and white. But I also heard from you that there is compassion, understanding, working with people, which is all in the gray area.
Yeah.
So I hear both pieces. from
Yeah.
you.
I mean, my knee-jerk reaction, my proclivity is black and white, but I mean, if you see something, if I see something that's like, for instance, like the grandmother with her grandson, because she's really breaking the lease violation, if I'm black and white, dotting the i's, crossing the t's, I don't care, no compassion, she's terminated, she broke the rules. But I mean, come on. Yeah.
Hobbies.
So historically, and still, I love to fish. That's one thing that I share with my kids. So Manistee fits really well for that.
That's gonna say there's no fish
Yeah.
out here.
I grew up in a small town, an old mining town called Millfield. So I never really tell people that. People always ask us, I'm from Athens, Ohio. It's a small college town. But Millfield's in the county. So also I like shooting, hunting. I don't get to do it as much anymore. I like traveling. I like reading. So my grandfather, he was born in 1932 or something. And I remember right before he died, because he had terminal cancer, and he's like, if you want to do something, just learn computers. That's all you're gonna need to do. And I'm just thinking, Grandpa, you're full of it. But I think about I think about it now at that time, and all that he he saw how things changed radically. And I think we're at a changing that's even way more radical than that. So when you say hobby, like I love messing with AI. I'm messing with every AI I can. I put a lot of money into, I have a set monthly budget that I'll allocate for my LLMs, for my various AIs. Because I can't sit still. I mean, I'll watch, like if I find a good TV show, I'll binge it. But beyond that, I just get really bored. I feel like I'm not being productive. So I figured out ways to make AI do things that I want to do when I'm not actually doing it, so I can increase my productivity. Wow.
That's way above Steve's head.
And can you show him how you use his flip phone?
That's Rose's job.
That's all I have for now. Karen?
Right. Um.
We didn't do 3 or 4.
5, 6, and 7, we asked, so 5, I'll go there. How do you hold staff accountable by maintaining moral and highly regulated environment? Or morale, maintaining morale in a highly regulated environment.
Oh, it's just attitude. I mean, it's energy, everything's energy, like literally everything. This table's energy. I mean, and if you're vibrating at a terrible energy, it's just like, you've been around those people. You don't want to be around them. You can make a bad situation worse by having a negative attitude. So I think the first thing is just attitude. If you're happy, at least the people around you will be happy. Or if they're miserable, maybe they'll be less miserable. So that's that. And then just when keeping them accountable, I mean, everybody knows what the job needs to be done. They should know what the responsibilities are. And you hit them or you don't. And then if you don't, why didn't you do it? And figuring out, was there something legitimate there? I guess it's into your gray area spot. Like why did you not perform? If you're black and white, it's like you didn't perform, you're done. And maybe in some circumstances where it's very serious, yeah, you have to be black and white. But certain circumstances, like maybe they got a sick kid, maybe a parent's sick, or who knows. So yeah.
Odd question, but we put it in here. It's like, what would be an approach to succession planning or leadership development? It's not so much the succession planning right now, but maybe your leadership.
Yeah, we don't want to do any.
Succession plans should start day one. You should be training your replacement day one.
All right.
And I mean, it's good for them. It's good for the continuity of the organization. It's good for you. Because like if you have to step out as a leader or do something, I mean, there was a rule in business, like it was called the weekend fishing rule. You didn't have a real business if you couldn't go on a weekend fishing trip and not have to pick up the phone. At that point, you're just an independent contractor running a solo business. But if you can go on a weekend fishing trip and your business still runs, you've actually got a business.
Mhm.
So I think that's
Perfect.
Good answer.
It's usually my answer. How do you address performance issues when civil service rules or union contracts are involved? Have you had much experience in negotiating of union contracts?
no. My brother's in the union. I've been a part of a union. I used to work in politics against unions. I've had it on all sides. It's just a matter of in those cases, it's very black and white. It is or it isn't.
Yeah.
There's no like, I mean, so you negotiate from a black and white perspective.
Describe how you build a culture of ethics, transparency, and service.
By example, I mean, like, for instance, if you have to put, obviously with PII, personal information and whatnot, you gotta make sure it's locked, but you should be fine enough to be able to leave your computer unlocked and let any of your staff be able to go through it. Obviously, by example, I mean, just, you're not trying to hide anything. I mean, what's out in the open, you don't have to worry about. Yeah, I think it's just a leadership thing, just being out in the open about it.
So your style is more of a collaborative leadership. Everybody kind of being able to kind of be not at the same level, but somewhat at the same level. You had trust in each other.
There's still a hierarchy and there's still like things do some degree still flow downhill, but yes,
Okay.
collaborative. Like, I mean, no one wants to just be completely dictated to. Everybody wants to have buy-in. You want to, and you want the people that work for you to not only respect you, but I mean, well, you want them to like you, but they have to at least respect you.
Yeah.
And I think they build respect by that, by just having buy-in. Like, what do you think about this? Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to go that route, but they at least want to know, and they might come up with something you never even thought of. Everybody has a different perspective, different walks of life. They've seen things, and it's like, oh, I never even thought about that. That's great.
Mhm.
You go with it. And then if the person in leadership is now just taking the regular Joe working in the office ideas, like, oh wow, like I mean, management listens to me.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, it's not only listens to you, reward you, because this is a great idea. Like, I mean, I'm glad you brought this up.
Mhm.
It's gonna make the organization better.
Um, so how would you respond when staff bring forward concerns about compliance or misconduct?
I'll listen to it, document it, figure out what went wrong, and just do a thorough investigation of it.
That's all I have.
So what do you see as the biggest challenge facing public housing authority over the next 5 years or so?
I think it's just HUD in general, this is regardless of political ideology or whatnot. And I think some of the ones in the room have been in public housing for years, have kind of heard like HUD might be going away, HUD might be going away. Well, we do now know there are government dictate, or not government policy, but policies that dictate government policy that are now calling for returning it back to the states. And whether that happens or not, who knows? But there are people in power that are actively listening to this. And I think we need to be able to operate on our own independently of any government organization. If we get help, great. If not, we've already prepared ourselves for the worst case scenario. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
What innovation or best practice have you implemented that improved outcomes?
Specifically to public housing, I would say at my
It
time,
doesn't have to be specific to that.
Oh, okay. Outcomes. I'll keep it to public housing. At Battle Creek Housing Commission, I was able to start the process. We're now almost on the cusp of having an online portal so that we can have online applications. I got these new implementation of equipment. I was looking at it's called Bob AI. It's a regulatory AI that helps as an overlay with the housing commission, and I've got that on the discussion to happen. Like if I were to end up becoming the executive director of the housing commission of Battle Creek, I already have board members on board that like this would be great. Because what it would do, everybody's like, well, it's gonna take all the jobs. It's like, no. Instead of us trying to figure out what exactly is gonna be on the 50058, it's gonna do it. There's still gonna be human oversight to look at it, but all the time that they spend just pushing paper and whatnot, they can go out and instead of us having to maybe hire resident service coordinator, it's like, hey, Daniel, one of our does, hey, Daniel, go over and talk to them, see what they need help with. Just it allows people to actually have more of a actual personal relationship with the residents as opposed to, I need your social security card. What did you make in Lyft last year? What did you make in Uber last year? So yeah.
How do you balance redevelopment, preservation, and resident stability?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of players there. So you got the residents, you got the city, you've got the historical society, whether it be the local one or like SHPO. It's a tough one. I think you try to keep as much of you try to get a buy-in, try to get everybody in the same place. The historical preservationists want to keep it historical. The people want to have a place to live, and you're trying to listen to them all. So I think you're going to have multiple conversations with all these people and lay out a framework that will at least meet most people most of the way.
Why are you interested in leading this housing authority?
So,
Safe, left the best one.
so the community here is really nice. So when I first was thinking about going, it's about like, where am I gonna raise my kids? Like, where are they gonna be at? So when I first went into, and this is, some places have it better than others, like I get it, proximity and whatnot. But when I'm looking at a place, I'm going to YouTube, I'm going to the internet, I can't really find, I mean, there's a few things you'll find that are bad, but I can't really find too many people saying bad things about Manistee. It's like, okay, that's good. I mean, you go to YouTube, they're showing the walk, they're talking about the summers. I'm staying at the hotel. I see the slides that like I'm sending my kids like, hey, might be sliding on these this summer. So there's that. And then specifically the housing authority, what I've understood, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is Lori and management have taken an organization that had a tumultuous relationship with the city. They've built back the trust. They've now got us near 100% occupancy. So they've gave us a foundation. The foundation's there. You've already done a LIHTC project. So you already have that going for you. And now we can do more. And the fact that you are a tourist city, at least part of the year, could be full time of the year. And that the housing commission is the one that's going to be, at least according to the city documents, the city plans, the main quarterback behind that, that's exactly where I thrive, because I'm go, go, go. I would say, like, a lot of people ask me, well, what's your shortcoming? I'm like, well, sometimes I'm relentless to a fault. If you push a positive far enough, it needs to become a negative. But I see it with here, like, I mean, I just see a lot of opportunity, and that's what excites me. And from the little bit of interaction I've had to some degree, it seems like this board, to some degree, and I'm assuming here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, shares somewhat of that idea. Yeah.
I don't think all the Brad and all that other questions are relevant. I think Jonas, he can handle all that. Anybody else have anything out there that I skipped some stuff on the list, so,
Crisis management was the last one that we needed to,
oh, okay.
it's like a page number
Oh,
7.
Oh. We didn't, oh, I thought you said we did number 7. Okay.
Yep.
Tell us about a crisis you managed, financial, safety related, political, regulatory.
This one's perfect. So this past summer, we were all in the office sitting, and Kellogg Manor, which is the main building, the housing commission in Battle Creek. There's a bunch of, it was a very posh hotel back in the days of Kellogg. And there's some trees that are just as old as that building, massive. And there was this massive silver maple. And I'm just sitting there all of a sudden. I thought a dump truck off the curb. I didn't know what happened. And then all of a sudden you see the swoosh of leaves. And this is like 15 minutes after lunch has ended. And we usually have at least one, maybe two of the gals sleeping in their car during lunch. And we realized the tree had just wiped out
Oh,
4 of the cars and damaged mine. And I'm like, oh my God, is Melinda or Danielle there? Because they'd sleep. So the first things first, like, I'm going out, I'm seeing like who's in the car. No one's in the car, luckily. At that point, it was a matter of calling maintenance, like, hey, get on the phone with the tree trimming company. We need to get them out here. Next thing, I couldn't do it, so I called my executive director, and unfortunately, he was dealing with a sick mother at the time in the hospital. I'm like, hey, Lee, like, we've got this situation going on right now. The girls are talking about car rentals and whatnot. HAI, our insurance company, like, good luck getting through to them. This is gonna take a couple of weeks to figure out. Can we document it? Like, what can we do for the people who don't have full coverage on their car? So he allowed me, like, he's like, we'll figure it out. So I called the enterprise. Down the road, we got one of the gals a car. The other 3 had a full coverage, so they worked through getting it. But it's just like, is anybody hurt? Let's get everybody their money back and the transportation settled. And I mean, I don't think this is conceded, but it was what was said. Like, I think everybody was really happy about the way that all went down. And I saw a situation that was first safety and then financial and then just like transportation and just laid it all out, talked to the people I needed to do and took care of it.
Nobody got hurt.
No one got hurt. That was,
That's
I mean,
amazing.
15 minutes earlier, I mean, she probably would have been alive, but maybe not. I don't know. It was bad.
You didn't get a write-up from the tree commission?
Well, it was a tag tree. And then, and I had been pushing, this is one of the things I've been pushing, like, there's some dead trees, we should get rid of them. And it's like, as soon as that happened, I told the maintenance guy, I'm like, well, I think we got our justification and chop down any tree we want. Knock them all down.
We had a tree issue here. It just hit a ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was laying into the channel, and I should say the ship hit it.
Yeah.
No.
They took care of it.
The trees.
It was becoming a hazard
tree-
to navigate.
Tree went away.
Yeah, somebody got a picture of that. I was telling them on the drive, how the ships come in up the channel and go into the lake. We went by Wreath Riley and showed them the big piles and all that stuff, because it is hard for people to imagine these big giant ships coming through this ice covered river.
I
right
have pictures on my phone of the ship going
now. Do you?
Yeah.
You better
You
show
can
these.
talk to the
Yeah, you show those
Yeah.
guys.
and walking out on the tree, out on the
Oh,
river.
did you do a
I
picture of
walked
that?
out. on-
Oh, I wanna see that.
Okay.
So how do you handle media scrutiny or public controversy involving the authority?
Do you want to give me an example?
Yeah, so your example of bed bugs. We've been there,
Yeah,
you know, and so how did your authority handle that in the community? Did you do press releases or
they
anything?
did. A lot of the, they mitigated the issue. They did a really good job with it, but if no one knows you're doing it, what's the point? And that's where I think that they fixed the issue, but they didn't fix the perception issue. And I wasn't a part of that. And there's a lot of decisions that I wanted to make, but I only had so much authority, and without creating a rough work environment, there's just some things you just let go. But in that case, yeah, there should have been a press release. There should have maybe had a follow-up with the resident, like Abigail was here with the news earlier, like call Abigail, like go talk to the residents, like fix that. Social media, everybody's on social media, talking, I mean, putting it out there, so.
Yeah, just the bed bug thing, it stirs up a lot of craziness. What steps would you take if you suspected fraud, waste, or abuse within your people in the,
What steps would I take?
yeah,
As soon as I suspected it, I would try to confirm it. And if I couldn't confirm it, I would hand it off to the people who had the authority to confirm it. And go about that. I wouldn't blow it up. It's all quite, because no one, you could have it wrong, so you don't want to make a scandal out of nothing. But if it does come to fruition that there was something wrong and you can prove it, talk to the enforcement agency that would enforce it and order whoever and make a decision to get rid of that person or do what needs to be done judiciously to solve it.
and if you get offered the position, what would you do in your first 90 days if you discovered some serious compliance failures?
Well, I would probably talk to if Lori or Mark are here, I would talk to them about like, hey, what do you know about this? Figure that out, come to the board. Hey, were you familiar with this? Is this really a problem? Talk to the agency that would be handling any penalties for a compliance issue, whether it be MISHTA or HUD or whatnot.
The only one we missed was 3 and 4.
I'm content.
Oh, I got the last one that I did before.
Okay.
Has there been a project or, even, maybe past history or something in which it failed miserably? And how did you recoup or handle that situation?
A pass.
Like a job, a project that you were to lead up?
So this would have been in my, and I don't know if this made it into the packet or not. Because I tailored my resume to this job, but I own it's about ready to be sold off, but a small insulation company, residential and whatnot. We had a big, I bit off way more than I could chew, which happened a lot more when I was younger still. But we started this, company. I had, a real estate client of mine. She just built a 1.7 million dollar home. She liked me and she's like, you started your insulation company. You want me to help you take off on this? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So I started, I looked at it, I'm thinking, I told the GC, I'm like, we'll have it done in 3 weeks. Well, it ended up being a 9.5 week job. We finished it, but I ended up having to push a lot of the trades back. It caused me a lot of, heartache. I had multiple, midnight breakdowns as we're spraying through the night so that the, painters could come in the morning or the plumber, well, not painters, but the plumbers were the main thing. And, just owning up to that. I mean, accepting that I bitten off way more than I could chew. And within the parameters that I could, I mean, it was like, well, you're working nights because the other trades still have to operate because you were overly ambitious. So we finished, behind schedule, but still a quality job and everybody was happy. But, during that time, it was a rough, month and a half for me.
And so moving to Manistee, Michigan, Battle Creek, other side of the state. You know, what's gonna keep you here?
What's gonna keep me here? So my wife's sister lives in Detroit.
Mm.
She's kind of wanted to stay at least within a day's drive of her. I'm originally from southeastern Ohio. So that's like a 4.5 hour drive to Detroit. So quite honestly, we're the only ones that do any visiting. So it's like, honey, like, as long as we're willing to drive, I don't think you should worry because your sister doesn't drive to visit us. But that and there's the community. Like I don't see. I'm grateful for the opportunity I have in Battle Creek. I just don't see that. I'm from a small town originally, so I understand the pros and the cons of it. And the pros are usually pretty good. Like you know your neighbor. You're not going to cut off someone on the street and honk them the horn or flip them the bird. Like I mean, but
It's all of our four ways.
so there's that. It's a beautiful area. And like I said, like, I mean, I look online and it's just like, other than Reddit, maybe talking about something that happened 10 years ago, I can't really find anything negative on Manistee. And I really tried, like, cause I'm like, but you gotta really figure like, this is a big move. I mean,
Yeah.
for you, for me, for my family. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice community. It's a small community. There's a chance for great work to happen here. Trust is back in with the PHA here. There's no occupancy issues really. And at this point, it's just like, let's take Traverse's playbook and implement it here.
Anything else, anybody?
You don't seem convinced.
Do we have, wonder if financially we can hire them both? No, I don't have anything more. Thank you
I
for,
appreciate it. And
Yeah.
regardless of how it comes, I mean, I've done a few of these and you all did a great job. I mean, the tour of the city was awesome. The hotel was awesome. The meet and greet with the staff. I mean, you all clearly know what you're doing and it was a very nice experience. So thank you for that.
We want this to
That was
be,
Lori. that did-
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we want this to be done right.
Yeah.
We have enough of kind of getting through. Now we want to move on.
Yep.
And so, it was important to do it right.
You did it really well. So thank you.
Thank you.